The Geological Society of America hosts dozens of field trips every year, many around the US and some even internationally. These field trips are guided by local geology experts, and whether you're a researcher, student, or just a geoenthusiast, I highly recommend you check some out. I recently interviewed a few of the field trip leaders for the upcoming fossil hunting field trip to Coon Creek, Tennessee, and hopefully it can provide you some insider information about how this trip will go, what participants will get to learn, what they'll get to take home, and hopefully just some good context as to the general vibe of GSA field trips, which, if I must say so myself, is pretty awesome.
I'm Michael Gibson. I'm the Director Emeritus of the University of Tennessee at Martin Coon Creek Science Center, paleontologist at UT Martin.
I'm Joshua Ratliff. I am the current Program Director here for Coon Creek Science Center, and I'm also the paleontologist and instructor for UT Martin.
I'm Alan Youngerman, the current director of the UT Martin Coon Creek Science Center and the director of our branch center in Zomer, Tennessee.
And we want to welcome you to the Coon Creek Science Center, which is a Cretaceous age Lagerstätte deposit that we wish to share with not only our paleontologist colleagues, but the general public and as many K-12 kids as we can get to come to our site.
Amazing. Okay, so, the purpose of this will be mainly to inform on what this kind of field trip will be like, what participants might get to find, and kind of what they might get to experience if there's another one of these in the future. But also just in general, like, why are GSA field trips important and, what can they mean for participants? So I guess that leads me to, why did you want to lead this field trip? Why are GSA field trips so important?
We wanted to share the resource with the professional community and provide a good educational resource for the general public as well. This is a unique site, 240 acres, and it is abundantly fossiliferous. It dates back to, of course, everybody's favorite, dinosaur time. So what we like to do is bring people in, let them firsthand see these specimens, do their own digging, do their own preparation, and we will provide lessons for them, but then they get to keep what they found. So this is essentially a training facility for professionals, as well as we all know that all geologists started out as little kids that had a fascination for the outdoors. So it's best done in this setting, we feel.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love that this trip and a lot of GSA field trips, but this one specifically is very geared toward not just, geologists, a lot of people will be geologists, but you can also just be like a non-expert geoenthusiast and come out and do some fossil hunting, which, who doesn't love that? But for those maybe non-experts or even geologists that might not know this term, the title of the field trip is Discovering a Cretaceous Lagerstätte, and it's the fossil field trip to Coon Creek, Tennessee. So before we get into it, what is Cretaceous Lagerstätte?
So the term Cretaceous, of course, tells us how old this strata is that contains all the fossils. And we're looking at 76 to 76.8 million years ago. So this is near the end of the Cretaceous, but still a few million years before the big asteroid impact totally decimates the Mesozoic organism. We have set this site up so that it's a teaching facility. So every third Saturday, for example, we have public days. Families and school groups and just amateur collectors, anybody can sign up and they can come spend a few hours, give them a little training, take them out to the actual site where we find all our research fossils as well. They get to collect. We show them how to preserve the material, and then they get individual personalized lessons on exactly the significance of their individual finds. That way, we know for a fact that they've got something to take home with them. And the reason we can do this is this deposit is referred to as a Lagerstätte. And that's a German word that means mother lode. It has over 700 species that have been documented. And that includes just about every group you can think of. We have plankton is still preserved here. We have ear bones from fish, teeth from fish, bones from fish, and scales from fish. We have big swimming reptiles and lots of invertebrates, clams and oysters and snails. We have lobster and crab. You can literally have an entire seafood meal, fossil seafood meal at this site every visitor anytime they come.
Fossil seafood meal. That's awesome. So actually, that was my next question is what can participants expect to find? And I see you have all these beautiful specimens sitting in front of you. So can you show me some of what's been found here?
Sure. One of the more exciting things for most of our visitors is our swimming reptiles. And this site has produced parts of 5 different individual mosasaurs. So it's a big swimming reptile, kind of like an alligator with flippers, if you want to think of it that way. This is a lower jaw that was discovered here in 1990. And that particular specimen had most of the skull, a fair amount of the backbone. We did not get its flippers or its rib cage, but we do have some of the tail parts. And we're continually finding other pieces to this. So vertebrates are well represented, along with shark and turtle. We also get invertebrates. I'll bring a couple close to the camera, such as these two. So this one is a type of clam referred to as Tennesseella nowadays. And this is actually Tennessee's official state fossil. So anybody who comes here has a very good chance of finding the estate symbol. And the other reason Lagerstätte is so important, I don't know if you can see that shine. That's the original mother of pearl in the shell. So these shells have not been altered like other places have. So they're in their original chemical composition. And this is a snail called Petrocella, and the big flanges you see indicated sexual maturity. This was an adult. So invertebrates are very, very common here, as are crab, lobster, and shrimp.
Then you can find it all together.
Will you find many? This is about 5 specimens altogether, and this is how abundant everything is here. So here's part of our state fossil.
Oh my gosh.
This one is a snail that often eats other animals here. So the ecosystem is well preserved, so we can work out biotic interactions. Notice that these have been carved to stick out of the sediment. That's one of the other really unique things about this site. It is not in rock. It's in sediment that can be removed and kind of formed into its own display stand.
This one's carved, so you can actually stand up.
So if I set this down, you can see it's carved, so its own display stand. So we always tell our visitors the absolute most unique Christmas present anybody could ever get.
When I do my kindergarten through 12th graders and stuff, one of the questions I'll get asked is, are we going to find something? And you cannot not find anything. If you do not end up with a fossil, that tells me you didn't even look. Because you are literally walking through there and you will find it.
Here's a steinkern of a snail here that the internal mold of this snail, we even still see the fossil impression.
Oh, wow.
Here's a scallop here, so you can find steinkerns where it's the molds of lots of litter. Here's a mold of the Tennessee state fossil that's preserved. This is rock, so you can find their impressions in the sediment as well. That are lots of different types of fossils.
And it's always changing. After every good rain is the best time to go, because that means all the loose sediments have been washed away, and then you're starting to get your fossils exposed. And the one kind of benefit to the color changes here, your matrix is all gray, but these fossils that Dr. Gibson showed you, they stand out. So even when you start seeing the color change, I could tell people, there's a shell right there, go dig. I don't know what it is yet, but I know there's something there.
Lagerstätte these are like best paleontological sites in the country. There's maybe a dozen of them total. Not only do we have incredible abundance, but chemically, these are the original or near original chemistry of the animal secreted and built thing. We've recently been able to even find preserved chemicals, toxins that would have been in the water and potentially the animals would have had dealt with and could have killed them, such as the same toxins that create red tides today. Well, that chemistry is still locked in these shells. So it's a unique window into a world that most other places you won't get anywhere near as complete.
Okay, wow, really incredible. One viewer was wondering what kind of environment were these rocks deposited in, and why are the fossils so well preserved? Like, how does Lagerstätte become preserved? Like, how does that form?
During the Cretaceous, we are basically right up in this area right here. This part of North America, there was the Atlantic Ocean forming. We had an interior seaway that connected the Gulf of Mexico all the way to the Arctic. And then what we now call the Rockies was referred to as Laramidia there. And we've got this nice protected reentrant. And this is actually the beginning of the entire Mississippi embayment. But during the Cretaceous, it was nascent. So we have
Ooh,
a protected environment like this, and it's marine, so we're talking, open ocean, but a protected side part that served as a nursery for many of the young swimming reptiles and animals that would have been in the main part of the ocean. Some of our fish, for example, are like 5 and 6 feet long. But at the same time, it would have been a refuge for, say, older individuals, so mosasaurs, and we've now got our first a little bit of evidence of plesiosaur swimming out there. The seafloor itself would have been typical of a regular seafloor, so we had clams and the snails and the crabs and the lobsters. So if you were snorkeling in the Gulf of Mexico, many of the animals that you would see on that snorkel trip would be familiar in a Cretaceous seascape. However, sharks were not the top apex predator back then. We had mosasaurs and plesiosaurs in this ocean to deal with, but we also had sharks here as well. So we're looking at a marine environment being protected. There was lots of sediment coming in really quick, washing in, and that is really conducive to preservation. Animals die, they get buried quickly, so they get preserved that way, or often living seafloor areas were smothered. So the event that smothered them killed them in place. Great for the paleontologists because we get to see them in their orientations, their distances from their neighbors, which allows us to reconstruct ecological rules of assembly for this ecosystem.
And this clay is very impermeable, so it's not letting the water perk through to dissolve the minerals that the fossils are made of. So they're preserved. That's why we get the original chemistry. And some early studies showed even preservation of some of the amino acids that are the building blocks of life in these fossils. So it's really cool that you can find amino acids in some of these fossils.
And notice the mountain building events that would destroy fossil deposits it never occurred here. Post-deposition, this was a very stable area. And we are now at the Goldilocks time of erosion, where erosion has eroded down to it just barely nipped the top of this formation. So it's just being exposed in all this stability. So it's the perfect time for the perfect place.
wow. So it's a beautiful combination of you got the rapid burial, which preserves all the ecosystem interactions, very well preserved organisms, whole body, and then you've got the clay, which is very impermeable to the water coming in and dissolving parts. And then you've got the wonderful post history of it just sitting there waiting to be exposed. I love that. Oh my gosh. So we did have a viewer ask, can you find mosasaur and dinosaur fossils here? And you mentioned mosasaurs, but what about dinosaurs? I know, it's marine, but was it shallow enough maybe to, have some dinosaurs preserved?
The only dinosaurs that have been found in our Cretaceous sediments are what we refer to as bloat and float. So they actually lived in Middle Tennessee and the area around, and the specimens we get died there, washed out to sea, would float around for a little while, but as they decayed, eventually their carcasses would hit the bottom of the seafloor, and then they got preserved. They would be there. So we have a few minor hadrosaur finds, not at this particular site itself, but at other correlative sites in West Tennessee. And at this upcoming GSA meeting, a student happened to be going to that site, found part of a tailbone part that belongs to a hadrosaur at the exact same site. And we're pretty sure it's the same animal, and many people keep finding bits and pieces of it. But that site also has plesiosaur in it, and crab, and a number of marine things. So clearly, our embayment ends up being a mix of terrestrial things being washed in and the indigenous marine fauna.
Okay, so pretty diverse fossils out there for people to find if they're in Tennessee. That's amazing. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a really amazing field trip. I'm really sad that I can't go on it. But I really appreciate you guys coming on to talk about the trip and show all your incredible specimens. Hopefully, maybe after you guys go on it, you can send me some pictures of what you guys find.
You're welcome to come anytime. as well.
Anytime. We're open year-round. Schoolrooms, we have cabins for universities and whoever that want to come in and stay a day or two. We can accommodate them on the site.
So I hope that conversation provided a peek into what GSA field trips are like and how cool they can be. Unfortunately, we learned after doing this interview that this trip is sold out now, but be sure to click the link below to browse the other upcoming GSA field trips. I'll put the ones that I'm planning to go on the screen now. See you out there. Bye.